for now a little background on our entertainment for this evening before we begin. We thought that Tableau would be appropriate in keeping with the historical nature of this evening. The term tableau comes from the French term tableau vivant, which literally means living pictures. It's also described as a depiction of a scene usually presented on a stage by silent and motionless costumed participants. In the United States, tableau reached their peak in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, being performed at home parties, in museums, and on parade floats. They were often accompanied by vignettes, which are short written descriptions for the scenes in a movie or a play. So to provide the narration for our tableau this evening, I'd like to turn the program over to Dick Endinger.
Thank you, Karen, and good evening, everybody. As we talk about the history of the city of Alliance and the beginnings of the Alliance Historical Society, one often thinks about how we became the Carnation City. The McKinley Carnation, adopted in 1904 as the official flower of Ohio, finds its origins in an act of sportsmanship when in 1876 Dr. Levi Lamborn opposed William McKinley for election to Congress. Dr. Lamborn was a florist and owner of a private conservatory here in Alliance, and William McKinley was a Stark County prosecutor. The two men were opponents, but they were also friends. And during the campaign, Dr. Lamborn sent gifts of carnations to McKinley, who wore them as boutonnieres, and because of this gesture, the carnation became McKinley's favorite flower. When McKinley later ran for president, thousands of carnations were distributed as his campaign emblem, and McKinley was elected in 1896, and the carnation became a Washington tradition. He was re-elected in 1900. In 1901, the Buffalo Exposition was opened with thousands seen wearing the presidential flower. At the exposition, McKinley was shot twice by anarchist Leon Chexos while shaking hands with the public in a reception line. The president died on September 14th. When the train bearing the president arrived in Canton, carloads of carnations were strewn along its tracks. The McKinley carnation was adopted as the official flower of the state of Ohio in 1904. And after careful research, it was determined that the exact color of the flower is scarlet. And Alliance has since become known as the birthplace of the scarlet carnation. On April 1st, 1959, Alliance officially became known as the Carnation City. But there's so much more to Alliance history than just the story of the carnation. Wolves became very numerous in this locality and caused much hardship for the settlers. On the farm of Elijah Teeters, just west of Freedom, a pack attacked some cattle and killed one. Rattlesnakes were quite common and numerous, and in 1812 one struck an oxen and killed it. The last record of rattlesnakes was the one caught on the present location of the University of Mount Union in 1850. Bears were present in 1815, and they would attack hogs and others and carry them away into the woods, jumping on their backs and gnawing on the neck and guiding it with its forefeet, would ride it to the woods and destroy it. But nothing was as terrifying as squirrels. There were two great squirrel hunts, one in 1827, in which little Barry Stanley shot 80 squirrels, and Clayton Grant 75 squirrels, but no approximate total is recorded. In the 1832 hunt, 1,600 squirrels were shot without giving any individual high scores. But these squirrel hunts were not organized sporting events, but were an appeal from the farmers who were plagued by the squirrels eating their corn. And you can believe they were very numerous and could eat a lot of corn in a very short time.
Well, back in 1832, the crops were growing fine. We had corn, we had cucumbers, we had tomatoes on the vine. Then we saw about 1,000 squirrels, and then at least 500 more. They started eating all our crops, and we knew this would be war. Well, first they stripped off every vine, and then they took each stalk. You could see bare fields of corn everywhere you walk. Dinner time for all the people was such a sad affair. This rodent infestation was all that we could bear. The great squirrel hunt of 1832. Bring all your rifles and bring your muskets too. If we don't stop them, we might all be dead. Attend this infestation, give them all your lead. Now you might think that squirrels are cute, that they're fuzzy and they're kind of fun. Well, let me tell you, in 1832, something drastic had to be done. You see, back then you grew what you ate, and you ate everything you grew. And when the squirrels destroyed our crops, we just did what we had to do. The great squirrel hunt of 1832. Bring your rifle, bring your muskets too. If we don't stop them, we might all be dead. Attend this infestation, give them all your lead.
It was reported that residents of the Alliance area were in mourning for months after a seemingly innocent celebration to welcome Colonel YWCA home from World War I. It began on Saturday, August 23rd, 1919. Mrs. Willard Harris, the former Helen Sebring of the well-known Sebring family, planned a lavish welcome home party for Colonel YWCA to take place at the Lakeside Country Club at Myers Lake in Camden. Willard and Mrs. Garris invited several Alliance area notables to a dinner dance at the club, and the guests were Colonel Charles C. and Emily YWCA, Colonel William and Annette Morgan, John C. and Catherine Sher, A. Fred and Ella Morris, Dr. Willis and Jesse Sanford, Clem and Mary Bates, and Lewis and Maud Brush. The event was a fine social affair. Helen, wishing to make her table more festive, brought candy, nuts, and a jar of ripe olives. She had purchased them at the Ellen Barth Grocery in Alliance on her way to the dinner. The main course that night was roast turkey. It became the first prime suspect when the health of those in attendance turned foul. The run was played first. Mushrooms consumed the next day by John Scher and William Morgan were thought to be poisonous. However, it didn't take long for the olives to come under close scrutiny. In hindsight, they were suspect as soon as they were placed on the table. Annette Scher Morgan liked ripe olives, but took one and said many times afterward that the olive was soft and not as black as it should have been, but a mottled brown. She took a bite, and since it didn't taste quite right, she put it down and ate no more. Ella Morris thought that the olive she'd taken did not smell right, and cautioned her husband Fred not to eat any of those olives. Fortunately for him, he took her advice. Others at the table, along with the chef and the waiter, ate the olives without question. Shortly after dinner, Colonel Wydrek became nauseated, but John Scher was the first to report symptoms, including double vision. He simply thought he would need to have his eyes checked. He wasn't the only fuzzy vision, however. Mrs. Garris had fallen ill while she golfed on Sunday, and Colonel Wydrek also had experienced double vision. On Monday, August 25th, Mrs. Morgan rushed to John and Kit Scher's home after receiving an alarming phone call from the Scher's maid. Later that afternoon, Colonel Wydrek suffered an apparent cerebral hemorrhage, and by evening, word was received that Helen Garris was also very ill. Soon the vet friends began to die. Helen Garris died late Monday. By 9 p.m., a call to the Cleveland Clinic summoned Dr. John Phillips, Chief of Internal Medicine at the clinic. He arrived in Alliance by midnight. Dr. Phillips diagnosed it as an outbreak of botulism. Colonel Wydrek died at 4 a.m. on Tuesday, August 26th. The rest of the Garris party was contacted. Jesse Sanford and Mary Bates were both ill, as well as Lou and Maud Brush of Salem. Fred Morris had left on Sunday for a trip east, but was later found to be all right. John Scher died Tuesday night. Catherine Scher died early Wednesday morning, within hours of her husband. Jesse Sanford died on Saturday, August 30th, the seventh and last victim 1 week after the dinner party. The Lakeside Country Club and Canton Medical Society were called. No other guests at the Saturday night party were ill except those at the Garris table. With the exception of club staff, who would sample the olives, Frank McCoy died at the Lakeside Country Club chef, and Robert Jennings died. He was the waiter at the Garris table. Curtis Brothers of California, the company that packed the product, the mammoth ripe olives, never recovered and soon went out of business. The olive poisoning tragedy has become a milestone in Alliance history. Rodman, the name is everywhere in town. Rodman Playhouse, Rodman Public Library, Butler Rodman Park. There's even a Rodman Center of the Arts in Rittman College in Wisconsin. But just who was the person behind this famous name? Born in Milwaukee in 1890, C.J. Rodman was the son of a minister. He earned advanced degrees in chemical engineering, began his career with Eastman Kodak and Westinghouse. Advancement opportunities in his career and his father-in-law, W.H. Purcell, brought him to Alliance, where he managed and revived the Buckeye Jack Company and served as an officer of the Alliance Manufacturing Company. His interest in business and his entrepreneurial skills prompted him to organize his own company, the Steel Sanitary Company, followed by the Alliance Porcelain Products, Alliance Ware, and Alliance Tool Company. In the 1960s, Camp Limrod was donated to the First Presbyterian Church, located on 162 acres in southeast from Alliance. It derives its name from C.J.'s mother, Lily M. Rodman, a church member whose generosity provided the land for the camp. From the beginning in the 1960s, Camp Limrod was built by volunteers and staff from the church. An emphasis of the ministry has always been to provide outdoor Christian education for people of all ages, with children and young being the primary audience. In the 1950s, it became apparent that the Carnegie Library building had outlived its usefulness. It was cramped and had no room for expansion, so Mr. Rodman issued a challenge to the people of Alliance and said he would match a $250,000 donation by the citizens of Alliance to build a new library. And in 1963, the Rodman Public Library was formally dedicated and serves as a cornerstone of excellence for the community to this day. So like the name around town, the products that CJ created are equally well known: porcelain enameled sinks, tubs, and toilets. We have many things for which to thank Mr. Rodman. The daughter of the late Dallas and Hagel MacArthur Hartzell, Mabel Hartzell, was born in Saginaw, Michigan, and resided in Alliance beginning when she was 8 years old. At the age of 9, due to the death of her mother, she was adopted by friends of the family, Matthew and Mary Edwards Early. The adoption papers read that she would keep the name Hartzell and that she would live in the home built by Mr. Early in 1867 on North Park until her death. Mabel began her teaching career in a small country school in Bolton, where she spent a year and a half. She then taught at Alliance grade schools before being transferred to Alliance High School. At the end of 5 years, she was forced to retire temporarily through illness in her family and withdrew from teaching for a period of 16 years. During this time, she was elected to the Alliance School Board in 1911. She returned to teaching in 1926 and spent 25 years as a high school teacher. She was a member and founder of the Alliance Historical Society and acted as secretary-treasurer until she developed a stroke in 1952. She was also a member of the Starr County Historical Society, and in 1954, Ms. Hartzell was voted a life member. She was one of the founders and past president of Mount Union College Women's Club, one of the founders of the Alliance Women's Club and served on its board as first president, and she was also a past president of the Alliance Cirrhosis Club, member of the Proud WCTU and the Ever Ready Club. She was a member of the Alliance Quota Club and named Woman of the Year by the club in 1948. She was a charter member of the Alliance Garden Club and served as its treasurer for several years. And she helped found the YWCA in Alliance and was its president for 6 years. She served on the board for many years and was secretary. Ms. Hartzell was a director of the Alliance Community Chest and served as a recording secretary. She was director of the City Savings Bank and Building Company and one of the founders of the Alliance chapter of the American Red Cross and served as a director for 33 years. Ms. Hartzell built her home at 840 North Park with its furnishings for the Alliance Historical Society to be used by them for a historical home and museum. And it's because of her dedication to the City of Alliance and her love for local history that the Historical Society got off to a great start with a solid foundation on which to build. So, my friends, you can see there is much more to the history of our city than just the story of the Carnation.